Today's lesson is how the wheel rolled civilization forward. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be talking about an old invention called the wheel. Of course, we've got wheels everywhere. If you ride your scooter, you've got 2 wheels. If you drive your car, you've got 4 wheels. And the bus, of course, is going to have lots of wheels as well. We take them for granted because they're so common in our daily lives. But hey, people didn't always have them. So we're going to be talking about the history of the wheel and how it rolled civilization forward.
Absolutely. It moved civilization forward. Of course, wheels do roll. They turn end over end. And that, of course, is how they make progress, how they go in a forward or backward fashion. But we can also talk about rolling something forward by improving things, by developing things, by growing or something like that, and changing and improving over time. So the wheel has definitely helped people by rolling, and it also has helped society and culture and human civilization to roll or to move forward by making things easier to move around. Wheels are actually quite amazing. They're a fairly complicated machine when you really get down to it, designing one that actually works efficiently and won't just break itself after a little bit of time. And I guess with the wheels, we should also throw in the axle, that bar that connects 2 wheels across the bottom of a carriage or something like that. You can have as many wheels as you want, but if you can't attach them to the machine that you want to move, then they're not very useful. So the wheel and the axle both together in forms that were rugged and durable and strong. These are definitely amazing things that, yes, we still use today. We haven't really improved much on the wheel, have we? All right, so let's find out more about the wheel. Are we going to get a name of the person who invented it? Something tells me no, but let's find out.
How the wheel rolled civilization forward. The wheel is one of humanity's greatest inventions. It has enabled advances in technology, transportation, and industry for millennia and continues to do so even to this day. The history of the wheel begins around 4500 BC in Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians used it as a pottery-making tool. This early wheel allowed potters to spin clay more efficiently and produce more consistent pots.
大家好，标题中介绍名词 civilization， 它的意思是文明、文明社会或是文明世界。例如 Carissa is interested in ancient civilizations like Greece and Egypt. Carissa 对希腊和埃及等古文明很感兴趣。或者 Many historians study the rise and fall of various ancient civilizations. 许多历史学家研究不同古文明的兴衰。再来看到名词 humanity， 表示人或是人类的总称。例如 Scientific discoveries have greatly benefited humanity. 科学的发现大幅地造福了人类。或是 It is my hope that humanity finds peace. 我希望全人类能获得和平。继续看到形容词 consistent， 指一致的、始终如一的或是一贯的。例如 Jeff is fairly consistent in his political beliefs. Jeff 的政治理念始终如一。也可以说 Rob's consistent performance at work is appreciated by his colleagues. Rob 在工作上一贯的表现受到了同事的赞赏。
Okay, here's the first part of our lesson for today. We begin by saying, the wheel is one of humanity's greatest inventions. That much is true. Of course, wheels are everywhere. We wouldn't be where we are without the wheel. Humanity just refers to human beings in general. You could say mankind, but that word has kind of fallen out of favor because it's got the word man there, and it doesn't really include women. So nowadays we use humanity to refer to human beings as a whole, and yes, it is one of the greatest inventions for all people of all ages.
I've heard some people say people kind instead of mankind.
I've never heard that one. That's kind of weird.
I think that's a bit of a portmanteau, something that's kind of been invented. So yeah, humanity is a pretty good one because regardless of your gender, we are, of course, all humans. So yes, it is one of humanity's or people's greatest inventions. It has enabled advances in technology, transportation, and industry for millennia. and continues to do so even to this day. There are many machines that we have today that if you brought someone from the time of, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci or Julius Caesar, if you brought them forward in a time machine, they wouldn't know what a television or a computer or a cell phone or an airplane is. Well, Da Vinci might know what an airplane is, but many other machines would be very confusing. They would, however, recognize wheels. They would go, oh, you guys have wheels too. And they kind of look like the wheels that we had because they've been enabling advances. They've been allowing people to do more things, especially in terms of moving heavy things with less and less energy in technology, in transportation, and industry. Of course, wheels don't just get attached to cars and bicycles and carriages and things like that. Wheels are also used in factories, right? To turn things, gears, of course, to turn things and allow machines to work more efficiently, and all sorts of other great benefits, great uses that we've found for wheels. And this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years, or millennia, as the article says. A millennium is 1,000 years. Millennia is just a way of saying many thousands of years. And it continues to do so even to this day. Yes, we still have wheels, even on cyber trucks.
Okay, let's go back to the Middle East, as it's called today. Let's go to Mesopotamia, which is an area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq. And the history of the wheel begins around 4,500 BC in Mesopotamia. Again, that's that area where civilization is known to have started in the Fertile Crescent there of the Middle East there. And this is where the Sumerians used it as a pottery-making tool. Okay, that makes kind of sense. If you go to Inga here in Taiwan, of course, you can see people using a pottery wheel to make pots there. Kids can have a little bit of an experience for a little bit of a fee there. And yes, indeed, the Sumerians, one of the civilizations in Mesopotamia over time, used it to make pottery, to make pots and pans and things like that. It made more sense if a wheel's spinning around, then you can have it more uniform.
Interesting, though, that the wheel was not used for transportation at first. So this wheel would have been sort of lying on its side the way we would look at it today. And yes, it would be attached to a smaller plate. And of course, you would push this large, heavy wheel around with your feet. The small upper plate would spin, and that would allow you to, as it says, make pots more efficiently and produce more consistent pots as well. If something is consistent, it's sort of regular, it's uniform, it's following a pattern. Everything kind of looks like everything else. That's what you're going for. If you're making things in a factory, making food in a restaurant, you want all the food to kind of taste the same, or at least, similar items of food should taste the same. You want the machines in the factory to be making the products that are fairly similar, that look the same, that work the same, that are durable in the same kind of ways. You don't want them all to be quite different and unique and unusual and not quite as good as each other. So if they're very consistent, they will be reliable and predictable and something that you can sort of get people to trust.
Okay, we're at the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's continue to talk some more about the history of the wheel in the second part of our lesson. Let's listen.
It wasn't until several centuries later that the Sumerians began using the wheel for transport. Those early wheels were made of 3 wooden boards joined together and were used on carts. These animal-drawn carts revolutionized agriculture and trade by allowing products to be transported across great distances more easily than ever before. By 2200 BC, spoked wheels had been invented, likely by the Sintashta people of the Ural Mountains. These lighter wheels were an important development as they made vehicles, particularly chariots used in battle, faster and more maneuverable.
第二部分介绍动词 revolutionize， 表示使点点点带来革命性巨变，或是引起突破性变革。我们可以说 The entrepreneur revolutionized the world of computing. 该企业家彻底颠覆了电脑运算的世界。又或者说 The internet revolutionized the way human beings communicate. 网络彻底改变了人类沟通的方式。
Okay, so here we begin by saying it wasn't until several centuries later that the Sumerians began using the wheel for transport. So we had to wait a couple of 100 years later, several centuries later, maybe 5 or 6 centuries, or maybe even 1,000 years or whatever. We had to wait for the Sumerians to use the wheel for transport. Okay, so they took that long to figure out, hey, we could use this to transport grain or something from point A to point B a lot faster than actually carrying it or throwing it on the back of a camel or something like that. So yes, indeed, it wasn't until hundreds of years later that they actually started to use the wheel for this purpose.
Those early wheels were made of 3 wooden boards joined together and were used on carts. So this is the first time someone had the brilliant idea of using a wheel to attach it to a vehicle, so allowing you to carry more things on the vehicle and also having an animal pull the vehicle. Simple wheels, it seems, 3 wooden boards joined together. So get 3 pieces of wood, lay them down on the ground, join those 3 pieces of wood together, and then here's the trick. Cut it into a circle shape that is the same on 2 wheels. You don't want one wheel that's bigger than the other. You don't want your wheels to have strange flat spots or parts where it doesn't quite curve around in a perfect circle. So it is actually pretty tricky to make a wheel in this way. It seems simple, but actually making it so that the wheels are consistent, to use a word we just looked at earlier, and also strong enough that these wheels don't just sort of fall apart as soon as they roll along for half a kilometer. Quite a tricky thing to do, harder than you would expect. But once they got it mastered, these animal-drawn carts revolutionized agriculture and trade by allowing products to be transported across great distances more easily than ever before. It's suddenly like having extra strong muscles and you can walk extra far. You're not carrying the stuff's in the carriage. You're not pulling the stuff is being pulled by a horse or a donkey or an ox or whatever, and that animal isn't working too hard because, of course, the wheel is rolling, taking up a lot of the weight and making everyone's life much easier. So it revolutionized agriculture. If we say something revolutionized something, it changed it greatly. It changed it in almost all facets in all different ways. So the invention of steam power, allowing machines to work things and to turn things and to do jobs in factories, revolutionized manufacturing. Before, you needed skilled workers who would make a certain number of products, but probably a fairly small number of products with just their 2 hands. Now, of course, with factories and steam power, you could make large volumes, large numbers of things very, very quickly and very, very consistently. It revolutionized manufacturing. It changed it greatly in almost all different ways. So it revolutionized agriculture and trade, both farming and business, by allowing products, grain, for example, to be transported across great distances more easily than before. Suddenly you had access to farms and farm goods from dozens or even 100 miles away. You didn't have to carry it to market by hand or on the backs of workers. You could actually have wheels on carriages and animals pulling those carriages, doing a lot more efficiently.
Okay, so now we're moving forward in time, and we are in the year 2200 BC, or 2200 BC, which was about 4,400 years ago or so, something like that. And spoked wheels had been invented, likely by the Sintashta people of the Ural Mountains, which I believe are in Russia nowadays. They're the mountains that separate Europe and Asia. And yes, indeed, these are wheels with spokes. Okay, if something is spoked, it has spokes in it, just like in the wheels of a motorcycle or in a bicycle. You've got those little long pieces of metal that basically make the wheel much lighter and much easier to use. And yes, indeed, by that time, wheels had spokes in them. And of course, these were lighter wheels. And these lighter wheels were an important development as they made vehicles, particularly chariots, used in battle, faster and more maneuverable. So again, the spokes were important because they made the vehicles lighter, and they were used in lots of different kinds of vehicles, including chariots, which is like a vehicle that has only two wheels. You see those in movies about Rome where they're having those races, chariot races or whatever. They're pulled by horses, and they were used in battle or in races, and those chariots or other vehicles were faster and more maneuverable. If something's maneuverable, it can move around in different directions, which kind of makes me wonder when the axle was invented and when ball bearings were invented to make the wheels spin without heating up too much, and also when they started to realize that they needed to do something about differential.
All right, there we go. So wheels have definitely taken some big steps and already seen a lot of improvement, but we are still in 2200 BC. Still a long time ago from today, but already the wheel obviously is doing a lot to make humans' lives much easier and to make the things that we do more efficient. Let's find out more about the development of the wheel after that in the next and final part of today's article.
Around the globe, different societies adopted the wheel and adapted it to their needs. The Chinese are credited with inventing the wheelbarrow around AD 100. It was mainly used to assist with construction and farming. In Europe, the Romans improved wheel designs by adding iron rings for durability, an addition that was necessary due to their vast road network.
第三部分看到 adapt 这个动词，意思是调整以适应不同情况，或是改造、改编的意思。例如 Kara has adapted quickly to life in the big city. Kara 很快就适应了大城市的生活。再看一个例子 The writer adapted the book into a TV series. 该作家将此书改编为电视连续剧。接着介绍名词 construction， 指的是建设、建造或是建筑。举例来说 The construction of the new school should be completed by the end of the year. 新学校的新建应该于年底完工。又或者说The project was delayed because of high construction costs. 这项计划因高额建筑费用而延期了。后面看到名词 durability， 表示耐用性或是持久性。例如 This car is well known for its great durability on rough roads. 这辆车以其在崎岖道路上的出色耐用性而闻名。也可以说 Jeans are considered good work pants because of their durability. 牛仔裤被认为是好的工作裤，因为它们很耐用。最后看到 vast 这个单字，它是形容词，表示广大的或是巨大的。我们可以说 The library is filled with a vast number of books. 这间图书馆充满大量的书籍。最后一个例子 The vast desert stretched out as far as the eye could see. 那片广阔的沙漠一望无际地延伸开来。
Okay, here's the third and final part of our article for today. It says, around the globe, different societies adopted the wheel and adapted it to their needs. Interesting. In this sentence, we have the word adopt and we have the word adapt. Okay, to adopt just means to bring something to yourself and start using it. You can adopt a child, for example, and they adopted the wheel. They saw other people using the wheel and they thought, hey, let's use that too. So they started using it. But to adapt means to make some changes to it so that it's more suitable for what you need it for.
All right, so they've changed it, they've improved it in different ways depending on where they live and what they want to do. And here's an example. The Chinese are credited with inventing the wheelbarrow around AD 100. So AD 100, which would be around 2,000 years ago, or 100 years after the birth of Christ, as it were, which would be the year 0. So, yeah, around 2,000 years ago, the Chinese are credited, are given the credit. They are the ones that we sort of say they did it. If you credit someone with something, you are giving them responsibility for probably a positive thing, right? I'm going to credit Bob with his great idea that really improved our product or something like that. Give him the honor for doing something positive and something good. So the Chinese here are credited with inventing the wheelbarrow around AD 100. Anyone who's ever done some gardening might know what a wheelbarrow is. It's a one-wheeled, I don't know if you would call it a vehicle. We don't really use it to transport ourselves, but we would use it to transport things around a garden or a farm or a work site. It has one wheel. You push it in front of you. Usually it will be one wheel. You will hold on onto two handles that are connected to that wheel, and between these V-shaped handles that connect to that one wheel will be a large bucket or a large container. You put your rocks or your bricks or your dirt in that, you lift up the two handles, you start walking forward, and the wheel at the front will help you carry all of that heavy stuff, all of that heavy material that would be very difficult to carry by yourself. In a basket or something, you can carry much more, and you can cross rough ground with this wheelbarrow. As I said, anyone who's worked on a farm or in a garden or a construction site will know that wheelbarrows are wonderfully efficient ways of moving things around. It was mainly used to assist with construction and farming, which is pretty much how wheelbarrows are used today. 2,000 years later, the Chinese were using it back in AD 100 to assist or to help with construction, building things, and farming, growing things. Construction, yes, is when we build things. We're talking about building buildings here. So if you're putting bricks together, if you're knocking wood together to make walls and doors and ceilings and roofs and things like that, you are doing construction work, and you will probably be using large amounts of heavy material like rock, brick, dirt, cement, stuff like that, because that's all about building stuff or construction.
And let's go to Europe now. In Europe, the Romans improved wheel designs by adding iron rings for durability, an addition that was necessary due to their vast road network. Okay, so if you're building wheels out of wood, eventually they're going to start falling apart. So the Romans came up with the idea of putting iron rings on those wheels so that they would be more durable. If something's durable, it's less likely to break down, okay? So you always look for durability when you buy appliances, for example. If you buy a refrigerator, you want it to have durability so that it can last a long time and you don't need to get a new one, say, within 10 years or something like that. They should last a long time. So that increased the durability, and that was an addition that was necessary because of all those roads. Of course, all roads lead to Rome, and indeed they had roads going all over Europe there, all the way up to France, which was called Gaul, I guess, later on, and into Spain and into the eastern parts of the empire, and probably even in northern Africa as well. They had roads going everywhere, and they just didn't want those wheels falling apart, so that's when they put those iron rings on those wheels. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分的第一句写到 It wasn't until several centuries later that the Sumerians began using the wheel for transport. 这个句子它用到分列句来强调 not until several centuries later 来表达说直到几个世纪后苏美人才开始将轮子用于运输。那我们先简单复习一下分列句和 not until 的用法。首先第一个我们可以用 it is ... that ...或是 it was ... that ... 那这就是分列句的句型，用来强调句中某个部分。用法是把你想要强调的部分摆在 it is 和 that 之间，或是 it was 和 that 之间，然后你把原本句子剩下的字词就丢到 that 后方，所以句型就是 it is 或 it was 加上强调部分加 that 再加句子其他部分。第二个复习的是 not until ... 它是表达直到什么什么才怎么样，那之后可以接表示时间点的名词或子句。现在我们就来结合这两部分，我们把 not until 名词或子句用来当做分列句要强调的部分，所以句型会变成 it is 或是 it was 加上 not until 名词或子句加 that 再加句子其他部分，去强调说直到某个时间点才怎么样怎么样。好，举例来说 She didn't learn the truth until yesterday。 我们先把句子里面的 not until yesterday 拿出来当做分列句强调的部分，就会变成 It was not until yesterday that， 然后接句子的其他部分 She did learn the truth。 好，那这时候助动词 did 已经没有存在必要咯，所以要把 did 删掉，然后 learn 就要改过去式，句子就会写作It wasn't until yesterday that she learned the truth. 直到昨天她才得知真相。读到课文第三部分第一句，他说 Around the globe Different societies adopted the wheel and adapted it to their needs. 在世界各地，不同的社会采用了轮子，并根据自己的需求进行了调整。句子里面用到 adopt 和 adapt， 我们来区分一下。Adopt 当中的这个 opt 它当动词表示选择、挑选，尤其是指优先选择某事物。那当我们要采纳某个方法或是采用某事物时，会做出选择。还有像要领养动物时，人们也会挑选最适合自己的宠物嘛。所以同学们也许可以用 opt 的意思去联想 adopt， 它有采用、采纳或领养的意思。至于 adapt， 它当中的这个 apt 可以当形容词来描述适当的、恰当的、合适的。要让某事物变得合适，中间可能就会需要经过改造、调整，也许就能联想到说 adapt 它有调整以适应不同情况的意思，或者是有改造、改编的意思。另外补充了一个单字是 adept。adept 这个字可以当形容词形容熟练的、擅长的、内行的，或是当名词来表达能手行家。同学们这时候可以把这个 adept 当中的 e 来跟 expert 专家或者是 excellence 优秀杰出来做联想哦。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Civilization. I'm reading a book that explores the rise and fall of ancient civilizations. Humanity.Global warming is a serious challenge for all of humanity. Consistent. The new recipe helped the chef achieve more consistent results every time she baked the cake. Adapt. After losing the first game, the team adapted their strategy to the rainy conditions. Construction. The construction of the new bridge will take approximately 2 years to complete. Durability. This helmet has excellent durability.It is very difficult to break. Vast. They searched the vast forest for hours, but still couldn't find the trail.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.